For those of you who watch my series on the Hermitcraft server, you will know that I have got myself a mob spawner that looks a little bit like this. As you can see, we have a whole bunch of platforms that go up from this level all the way up to this level right here, and they get flushed out using water. Now, this was originally designed by Mango. It was slightly modified by me to make it 2 blocks wide as opposed to 1 block wide in the center, but it works incredibly well. It produces a huge number of mob drops, and I'm really happy with the efficiency. But, and there is a small little but here, sometimes it goes out of sync, and some of the platforms are left dry while others are wet. Sometimes there's mob spawning on those platforms. It can cause problems. And I was thinking, I wonder if we can make use of the new water mechanics that were introduced in some of the latest snapshots to see if we can solve this problem. Now, my idea is pretty simple. In the center right here, we're going to have ourselves a whole bunch of sticky pistons, and we're going to have fence posts on top of them. Inside those fence posts, we're going to have water. Then what we're going to do is grab ourselves some slabs, and these are going to be the spawning platform. So we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks out from that, and then we can kind of create a diamond shape, which is actually going to be the spawning platform for our mobs. Now, I guess in the center here, we're going to have some form of solid block structure. I'll probably get onto that in a little bit, because that could make things a little bit tricky when it comes to the actual powering and unpowering of redstone. But then we will have this area wrapping over the top here, and then up here is where our next platform is actually going to be starting. So I suppose, actually, there'll be sticky pistons here, and then there'll be fence posts here. So this is how they're actually going to be stacked up. So sticky pistons there, sticky pistons going around like that, and then we'll have blocks in the corners here, and that is going to be the start of a new platform. So we really don't have too much space to work with in between the layers. Okay, now how would I power down through this area here? Now, this is just a quick question. If I have water inside a stair like this, can it only move out to the front? No, surely not. Oh my word. So we have directional water sources? I was not aware of this in the slightest. That is completely amazing. Right. Well, this is easy then. This is so easy. All we have to do is, I mean, that's just run a redstone torch tower up the center. It's not that difficult. No, of course I can't do that, because if I place a block here, and then a redstone torch, and then a block, and then a redstone torch, that redstone torch powers these pistons. But then if we were to power this bottom redstone torch down at the bottom here, the block next to the pistons would still power the pistons. Okay, I think I've come up with a slightly weird and wacky idea here that I'm not 100% certain is actually going to function. So we need to remove all of these, and we also need to remove these corner blocks. I'm sure from the obsidian you can kind of tell where I'm going with this one. I'm going to take out this sticky piston, and we're going to place slime blocks going in up here. So that is 4 blocks in total. That is 5 blocks, 6 blocks, 7 blocks, 8 blocks. Okay, that's good. And then if we were to have something like this here, how would we get power to that piston? Because that really needs to be... Oh no, I suppose... Yeah. How do we get power to it? We'd have to power it somehow. By doing something like this. So we have a redstone block on top of those slime blocks there. Then we have 2 slime blocks on either side, which are underneath these stairs, which push them up. And this actually functions. So you can see that piston pushes up, lifting up these stairs. It also lifts up these stairs as well. But it also causes this piston to extend, which would have another setup like this attached to it, which would mean that the stairs on this level would pop up thanks to that piston. So this is actually working, and if you're wondering why I'm not using observers, it's because I want to make sure that when we load and unload chunks, this thing isn't going to come out of sync, and that could happen when we're using observers. I'm fairly certain that's the case. It would be really embarrassing if it's not. Anyway, I have now built a couple more layers of the actual redstone design itself, just to see if things are actually working. So if we were to power both of these sticky pistons right here, we should see all of our stairs have popped out throughout the entire thing. So that'll be all of the water activated. And then if we break down the redstone blocks, you can see all of the stairs have now been retracted. Okay, this is good. That means that functions. Now I'm just going to quickly build up these platforms, and then we'll see if it actually works with water involved. One thing that I hadn't actually thought of is the fact that, of course, when you have a water source inside something like a stair, obviously that takes one block off the block limit. So that means that we're losing this much efficiency, and that's not a small amount. That's a lot of efficiency to lose. Now, I wonder if there's something that we can do about that. I wonder if there's something that we can work out here. Okay, back to the drawing board. Instead of pushing the water up from underneath, we're going to drop it down from the top. That means the water's going to run down like this, hit this block, and then create a full water source, which should stretch right the way out to the edges. Okay, this is good. This is good. We're not totally lost just yet. We just need to work out how to power them. I don't know if I've been smart or stupid here. There's a chance, because obviously I'm the one that built it, that it is completely stupid. But I think this could potentially work. So we're going to place water inside all of these stairs here. Alright, and let's cover up all of those blocks. So that should stop all of the water flowing across that area, which I haven't actually placed in the platform down at the bottom there. But what we have is a push down system. I hope. I really do hope this works, because I've spent far too long on this thing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that looks like a pretty big success. It works. No way. So look, the water flows out. If I were a mob standing right about here, I would be pushed off relatively quickly, off the edge, and dropping down to the abyss. That is not bad. Right, let me try my best to explain to you how I've actually pulled this off. So, here we have one corner of the central section of that mob farm design without having all of the areas and platforms around them. So you can just see the redstone. Now, if you power this, you can see all of our pistons extend and all of our stairs are pushed downwards. So if there were water inside these stairs, that would obviously flow down and then flood the platforms as you saw earlier on. Now, the way that we're doing it is we've got a sticky piston with a slime block on its face. We then have the two stairs attached on either side of that slime block. Obviously they would have water on the inside, and when we push this slime block down, obviously the water then flows out, as I've explained a bunch of times before. But anyway, what we do next is we extend that slime down, we have it underneath the stairs as well, and then we have a redstone block on the bottom, an observer, and then another sticky piston. Now, the interesting thing about this setup here is this little section, because when we remove this redstone block, that observer will then update that piston instantly, meaning that it decides to, it knows that it should retract. It knows that it's not being powered anymore, and then when the redstone block extends, that observer will send a pulse through into the piston, it will extend, but then it will also realize that it's being powered by this redstone block. So this little observer is literally just acting as an immediate updater. It's just telling the piston, look, you're being powered. Now, the only thing that I had to deal with here is that if we retract this redstone block out the way, you can see that there are two stairs next to each other right here. Now, originally, when I first built this thing, I had them kind of arranged a little bit like this. So I had one stair here, and then I had another stair facing in the opposite direction like this. And what that meant was that if they both had water in the inside, the water would then flow on top of that observer, causing an update and messing up the whole system, because obviously this piston would be powered by that observer updating. But the way that we've gotten around that is making use of the new directional water sources that we have with stairs, and we can now place them in a little bit like this. The water will never make its way on top of the observer, which means that this circuit is left alone. There's no water interfering with it, which means that it works reliably. And we can have extending all the way down to the bottom and retracting all the way up to the top really, really quickly. In fact, it should retract pretty much instantly, which it almost does, but we've got a slight delay in these observers. Nice. Okay, let's build this thing a little bit bigger. And you know what? I actually thought this would work better in the form of a third-person time-lapse, which is not something that you often hear in my Redstone videos, but sadly, because MC Edit doesn't work in the latest snapshots, and there's no real way that I can think of to reliably clone elements of a build on top of one another and have them stack up and work properly, I thought it would just be best to actually build this one manually. And I do believe this is the first time-lapse I've ever had in a Redstone video, which is pretty cool. I guess that's quite a monumental occasion-ish. I mean, maybe it's one for the Wikipedia pages, I don't know. But the only thing that I will say is that is this something that you'd like to see more of? Would you like to see this sort of thing inside my Redstone videos? Little time lapses of me perhaps working out Redstone contraptions? I don't know, it's definitely something that I'd consider. Anyway, let's get back to building. And there we go. This thing is now all built. It has been plunged fully into darkness. So if we take a look here and kind of do some flying around, you can probably see quite a lot of mobs are spawning on the inside there. This is looking good. This is looking good. Now, if I place in a redstone block on top of this redstone line right here, massive lag spike, and then the water will flow out, and there we go. All of the mobs drop out the bottom, and it's all perfectly synchronized. And then if we break the redstone block and replace it back up in this piston, then all of the water will be retracted from all of the platforms, and mobs begin to spawn again in their hundreds. There are a lot of them up there. Brilliant. Okay, that's great. Let's work on the redstone clock, and then we can get this fully automated. Now this should hopefully do the trick. So I've got a hopper clock up at the top linked into a monostable circuit that has a pulse extender attached to it, which means that the water should stay out for long enough to flush out all of the mobs, which it looks like that's almost the case. But then also it's fast enough for these guys to then respawn and get a good length of time that they can actually respawn in. So we should see lots of mobs in there, and then they get flushed. They all pour out the bottom, and new mobs spawn pretty much straight away. Now, I don't really know if we've quite nailed the timings, but it's very difficult to be able to tell because of the way that the game ticks seem to be working right now. Regardless of all of that, I'm just happy that this concept has ended up working. I was a little bit worried halfway through this episode that I had totally messed up and created something that was never actually going to function, but this thing seems to be fairly reliable, and the best thing about this design is that you can actually fully switch it off. You can turn it off entirely and ensure that it's all fully turned off by powering that piston, and then all of the water will be sent through all of the platforms and it will stay out, which means that no mobs are actually going to be spawning, which is great because these guys are going to be causing quite a large quantity of lag. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this experimental redstone video. It's definitely been a fun one to work on. I'll also put a world download for this world download down in the description if you do want to check it out for yourselves and perhaps play around with the design and see if you can make it more efficient or perhaps tweak the redstone a little bit. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit that like button, and if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later. Oh, and as per usual, check out the latest film on the filming channel. Link will be on the end screen.